And welcome back to Hannity. In the wake of Sgt Bergdahl's prisoner swap, many are questioning the details surrounding his capture 5 years ago. Now it is being reported that he simply, quote, walked away from his post. Joining me now is the Navy SEAL, one of them, who went on 2 separate missions to try and rescue Sgt Bergdahl back in 2009. Tom Shea, thank you for being with us. Washington Post today quotes a lot of guys that are very angry because they feel the full story hasn't been told here, and that 6 soldiers gave up their life in the search for him. Is that true?
Yes, Sean. Well, you know, we've been searching for 5 years. I did 2 ops myself that extended over 2 or 3 days in total, and a lot of risk to a lot of soldiers. And it's very interesting that now that after 5 years, when it's not in an extremist situation, that we now have a delay or a transfer in some very high-level operatives from the Taliban.
Were you guys, as you were doing this, were you aware of what the New York Post reported, some of the emails that he sent out, that in fact he said, "I'm ashamed to be an American. The title of U.S. soldier is a lie of fools," and he said, "I'm sorry for everything here. You know, we're a conceited country," on and on. Were you aware of those comments?
No, at the time, you got to realize, at the time, he was to us an American soldier. Whether he did something bad or not, it didn't matter. What we were doing was developing intel that would make our affecting a target more, you know, effective, if you will. So, you know, it really, to us, it still doesn't matter. He's still a U.S. citizen.
I agree. Maybe he was suffering from PTSD or the Stockholm Syndrome. You never know. I mean,
probably,
look, there's
yeah.
250,000 guys back here that have gone multiple deployments, and they are suffering from PTSD. Potentially, I want to always give our soldiers the benefit of the doubt. But under the circumstances, if he left his post, and he did so willingly, and 6 people lost their lives, does that change how you feel about this exchange, you know, 1 U.S. soldier for 5 others?
Well, I've acknowledged that in my book. I had written about one of the special operations that we went to pick up Bergdahl. Obviously, we didn't get him. And I remember putting down in my book kind of what a pain it was to ask my SEAL brothers to go into a very hostile environment to pick up this guy. And how it makes me feel is I still agree with he's an American citizen. You need to do whatever you can, but you never exchange a prisoner for another one.
The administration's position, Tom, is that we didn't negotiate with terrorists. Their position is that, and Jay Carney said this today, that these 5 guys do not represent a threat to the United States. Do you believe either one of those statements?
I would give it a different name. They have a plan. If you don't want to call it negotiation, somebody made a plan and a decision to make this transfer happen. I think there's a plan.
But in reality, didn't we negotiate the release? I mean, that's just, I mean, in other words, let's stop parsing words and splitting hairs here. This was a negotiation, and they're telling us it's not. They're telling us there's no threat posed by what is described as the dream team of terrorists. Do you believe that?
You and I both know that you don't get better in prison. So they've been in prison much of their adult life. What is it, 12, 13 years now? They didn't like the United States more from that experience, so they're not going to go back happier.
Yeah.
So they pose a big threat to soldiers and Americans.
All right, Tom, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. And joining me now with more reaction is former Congressman Colonel Allen West. Colonel, welcome back. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you. Good to be with you, Sean.
No threat, and this was not a negotiation. Reaction?
Well, of course they're a threat. It had been said countless amounts of times previously. We basically just turned over the Taliban senior cabinet members back to the Taliban. And we have to be really concerned about what is going to be the long-term ramifications. And I don't believe that Qatar is going to honor any type of agreement, because Qatar is actually the country that is supporting the Muslim Brotherhood and Islamist forces fighting in Syria as well.
So number one is, don't we have to tell the American people the truth? We did negotiate with terrorists, did we not?
Yes, we did negotiate with terrorists, and the bottom line is that we gave the Taliban what they asked for. That did not have to happen.
And does this set a precedent now where more Americans are likely to be taken captive or hostage?
Yes, it does set a precedent because what you have done is recognized a non-state, non-uniform belligerent, a terrorist organization that the Geneva Convention does not even recognize because they don't openly declare their arms or wear any type of uniform. So this has once again established a very different precedent on the battlefield that we're going to have to contend with.
What about the Bergdahl family, both the son and the father, and where their sympathies lie? Do you find some of these things curious about what the son has said, what the father has said when he was in the Rose Garden with the president? Is that disturbing to you?
Well, it is definitely questionable, and having been a former combat commander and also having served in Afghanistan for 2.5 years, I can tell you that if a soldier leaves his weapon and leaves his assigned duty post, he is a deserter. And if this soldier took a canteen of water, a knife, and a compass, and you only take a compass if you're trying to find your way to something, that is very questionable. So we're glad to have Bo Bergdahl back home, but the thing we need to look into is investigate the allegations of desertion, and we can't allow our emotions to get in the way.
Time.com, 6 Americans died searching for this guy. You know what? Those families deserve, and some of them are now speaking out. I think they deserve answers too. So, Colonel, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Some of those families were lied to by the administration as to why their loved ones died.
It's a good point, and we'll get to the bottom of that probably in tomorrow's edition. Thank you.